Okay, hi! I'm Cherry and you've stumbled upon my channel, and today we're going to be doing the Forget 2020 book tag. I think this book tag was originally called the lowkey F 2020 book tag, but in this channel, we hate censorship, so high-key, fuck 2020. This tag was originally created by Happy for Now, but I was kindly tagged by David from David's Book Reviews. I will be including the links to Happy for Now and David's videos in the description box down below, and I suggest you check them out. Thank you so much to David for tagging me. It is super kind of you. Anyway, let us get on to the questions. Question number 1. Share some good stuff that happened in 2020 and some bad stuff if you want. The best thing that happened to me in 2020 was that I finally had the courage to resign from my 9 to 5, or it was more like 10 to 7 in my case. I previously worked as a copywriter for a digital marketing agency, and if you're from the Philippines and you've worked or are working at a creative agency, then you know that this life is not it, because we are overworked but severely underpaid. So the good thing about my job is that it's always been work from home. Like, we didn't have an office setting. Everything was work from home even before the pandemic. And while people think that is like the ideal work setting, it actually disrupted the necessary work-life balance, because sometimes, because we're not at an office, even after I clocked out, I would still receive calls about work until like 9 to 10 p.m. And sometimes I would still talk to clients until much later, because I'm scared that if I don't, we would lose them. Honestly speaking though, I loved my job. I loved writing for social media, and I loved the people I worked with. It's just that, like I said, we are overworked but underpaid, and that took a really bad toll on my mental health, and I was like, nah. So I talked to my therapist just in case, because for a time I thought that I was overreacting, and I told her, yo, I'm a peace out. And she was like, she said she was actually proud of me, because like the old me would have been too scared to like quit and would have taken all the shit and just kept going even if my mental health was at stake. So she said she was proud of me, and honestly, I am proud of myself too. Pat on the back. Pat on the back. Now for some bad stuff. 2020 was just the best year, wasn't it? Because of the pandemic, I realized my privilege. I had to cancel my trips. I don't know when we'll be able to travel freely again, but at the rate the world is going, I am not willing to risk it. So it is beyond me why there are so many people that think it's okay to just casually roam outside around again. Like, there's people that are dying. So yeah, COVID, the worst thing that happened to the entire fucking world. Question number 2. What book did you love at the beginning of the year? Okay, so I will not stop talking about this book now that it's out in the open, and this question just gave me an excuse to talk about it yet again. It's Forbidden by Tabitha Suzuma. You'll have to sew my mouth shut if you want me to shut up about this book. I'm honestly not even sure if my best friend remembers that she let me borrow her copy, but Peach, it's with me if you want to read it. It's one of the first books I finished in 2020, and it's one of the books that remains with me to this very day. And it's like more than a year later since I finished it. Thinking about this book still pains me immensely. I don't even have a beating heart at this point. I'm just alive by sheer willpower alone, just despite my enemies, you know? Question number 3 is a book that you were looking forward to that ended up not being so great. I'm not sure if this question was meant for like a 2020 release that ended up not being so great, or just like in general from the books I read last year. So I'll guess I do a 2020 release and a backlist title. The 2020 release I already talked about in my most disappointing books of 2020. So I'll just reiterate a short version of it here. It's Blood Countess by Lana Popovich. I think I've said this so many times already, but it is not a bad book by any means. In fact, it's probably one of my favorite sapphic retellings, but it was my most anticipated book last year. So I had very high hopes for it, especially considering that the topic of Elizabeth Bathory is very close to my heart. And it only ended up being meh for the most part, especially in terms of the horror, but still I give it 4 stars. For backlist title, I'll give one that I haven't mentioned yet in any of my videos. It was either because I forgot to add it to my most disappointing reads of 2020, or because I'll just feel worse if I do add it, but it's The Haunting of Hill House by Shirley Jackson. I absolutely adored the Netflix series, and I know, yes, I know that the book and adaptation are very different. I knew that going into the book. Believe me, I knew that going into the book. The main reason that I'm disappointed about this book is it's supposed to be the foundation of haunted house horror, and literally everyone, even people in the horror community, speak so highly of it. I just didn't end up scared or unsettled in the very least. I don't know if it's because I just have a high tolerance for horror, but I guess it had a lot to do with the era that it was written. After all, it is one of the very first, but I did really love seeing the book to adaptation references. I think that was really fun. Number 4 is a book that surprised you last year. I already mentioned 3 of my most surprising reads of 2020 in my last video, so I'll also mention one here that I haven't yet. It was released in 2019, but it's The Flat Share by Beth O'Leary. Honestly, I am huge on romance, especially adult romance. Even when I was younger, I preferred reading adult romance to YA. I heard a lot of good things about The Flat Share, and the premise admittedly had me very curious. I didn't think, however, that I would enjoy it as much as I did. Basically, Tiffy and Leon share a flat. They also share a bed, but they've never met. The arrangement is that Tiffy, who works a 9 to 5, gets the flat in the evenings, and Leon, who works night shift, sleeps there during the morning while Tiffy is at work. On weekends, Leon stays at his girlfriend's apartment or visits his mom. But yeah, this book was so freaking cute. This was a surprise to me because I didn't read a lot of straight romances last year. They were mostly sapphic. So to enjoy a fluffy hetero romance this much was just mind-blowing to me. But it had the friends to lovers trope, and that pretty much won me over. Number 5 is a book you like but nobody else does or talks about enough. Do I have one that I haven't mentioned already? Okay, hold on. Can I say Something Borrowed, Something Blood-Soaked by Krista Carmen? It came out in 2018, but I read it last year, and literally I've heard no one talk about it. I know some people aren't fans of like anthologies or short story collections, but even those who are in the horror community don't seem to know that this book exists. Or they simply just don't care. But I personally care, so I am going to shove it in your faces. Basically, Something Borrowed, Something Blood-Soaked is a collection of short stories by Krista Carmen that focuses on women. All the stories have a woman point of view or main character, and I love that. Personally, I don't like reading about men. So yeah, this was definitely an ideal book for me. We've got tons of variety of short stories in this book too. Like, my favorite would have to be this story about a hardcore horror and slasher fan who had to defend herself from an actual zombie invasion. And also that story that heavily deals with substance abuse. I had a hunch about the end, but it did still surprise me. I did not see it coming. It's a good read for the spooky season, and if you're the type to feel spooky all year round, just like me, you can just read a short story a day or something. It's honestly really good. I like Krista Carmen's writing a lot, so I wish she would release some more of her work in the future, specifically, hopefully, a full novel, but honestly, I'll get what I can. Number 6, a book you want to come out already this year, 2021. I don't even know where to start. I have so many books in my 2021 anticipated releases shelf on Goodreads. I actually have multiple shelves and they're organized by genre, just so I know what I'm expecting. So if you're interested to seeing all the books that I am anticipating, maybe you can add me on Goodreads to know more. They're mostly horror, thrillers, and LGBTQ plus books, and there are a lot of sapphic books. On that list, I think the most books I have is in the sapphic shelf. I kind of want to make an anticipated releases video though, but we'll see what time and motivation decides, because there are honestly just a lot. It's a lot. There are way too many. By the way, the link to my Goodreads is in the description box down below. I'd honestly love to have you on my Goodreads feed because mine is very dead. Number 7, what book were you looking forward to that got pushed to 2021? I don't think that I have any that got pushed to 2021. My last 2020 anticipated release was These Violent Delights by Chloe Gong, and it was released in December last year. So yeah, I don't think I have any that got pushed to 2021. Not that I know of, anyway. And finally, number 8, what book will you think of when you think of 2020? I want to say Forbidden because I started 2020 with that book and it definitely had a lasting impact. But I've mentioned that book so many times already, so let me think. Can I mention a poetry collection? It's I'm Not Your Final Girl by Claire C. Holland. I'm not going to talk about it much here because I do have a video coming up where I talk about it, but I just really want more people to read it. Let me just say that if you're a badass bitch and you love both horror and poetry, this collection is definitely for you. I need more from this author, for real. Like, I researched her and she has like a few of her work published in like anthologies and like collections, but this is her solo work and I need her to release more. And that is the end of the tag. Once again, thank you so much to David for tagging me. It's like a day before April, so I don't know who else wants to do this, but if you haven't yet and you want to, consider yourself tagged. By the way, I know I have like a lot of tag videos too, and I will do all of that. Everyone who tagged me, please anticipate my videos because I will definitely do those tags one of these days, I swear. I have a bunch of them lined up already. I just don't know when to post them. But that is all I have for you today. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed this video and I will see you in my next one. Goodbye! The best thing that happened to me in 2020 was... Son of a bitch. Oh god, my memory card is almost full. Thank you, God.